And good morning, beautiful people. It is Monday, November 4th on Overreaction Monday here in New York City. I'm sitting alongside a man from Waterloo, Iowa, Ty Schmidt. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Lot to sift through after yesterday's games, that's for sure.
Ty's an owner of the Packers. They laid an egg yesterday. The Indianapolis Colts lost another all-pro quarterback and lost to Mason Rudolph and the Pittsburgh Steelers in a game that I called the biggest layup in the history of sports gambling. I was wrong. Patriots also lose. It was a wild day in the NFL yesterday. What did we learn? What do we like? What do we hate? We'll dive into it all. But first, live from the control room, bossing people around that he shouldn't boss around, Evan Foxy. Play some Chase Rice.
It's the perfect occasion for a little vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is Chase Rice, and I am Pat McAfee. Zito's in the back running graphics, asking questions. We have a pretty big giveaway if you're watching on YouTube, our Twitter, or the DAZN app, which is worldwide. Wide. This weekend, Canelo Alvarez knocked another dude out. Chris Mannix will talk to us about that in the second hour quickly, and also in the first hour. We have a man whose voice has been heard by millions and millions of people almost every week, except for yesterday. Joe Buck joining us in the first hour. We'll ask him about the madness that is the NFL right now. Felt like this classic Sunday debacle for a lot of teams. Felt like this was a Sunday where a lot of teams had an off day. We're in the middle of a season. Whenever you're in the middle of a tunnel and you can't see the beginning of the tunnel and you can't really see the end of the tunnel, there's a little bit of a mental wall in there, a little bit of a mental hurdle. And I believe a lot of teams got caught up in that. Could have been a trap weekend for teams, could have been a mentally tough weekend for teams, but a lot of things happened that we did not expect. Patriots get rotted by the Baltimore Ravens. This Lamar Jackson guy, special, man. Started out the year, he had the perfect passer rating. Everybody was losing their mind. Then Greg Roman and he wanted to find out what all he could do at the NFL level. They started throwing the ball a lot, to the tune of like 43 times or something like that. He started doing bad. He said he hated running. And then they got back to what Lamar Jackson does. And that is just electrify an entire stadium, an entire city, and an entire organization. Every play could possibly be a big play, no matter how you defend it with Lamar Jackson. He took a little rollout option to the right, saw John Simon, said, R1, whatever game it is. I don't know what video. Hey, Zito, what is that, PlayStation?
Oh, yeah.
R1 on the PlayStation, cuts it back, goes reverses field, picks up 12 for a first down, and that was the perfectly defended play. The Patriots and their big brains knew exactly what he was going to do at that time. Doesn't matter. Lamar Jackson makes something out of absolutely nothing. And if he can remain healthy, and Rex Ryan said, I saw him in high school, saw him in college, see him in the NFL. He's a stockier guy than RG3 was. I said, I agree with that. He said his entire career, people have been telling him you can't take big hits. I said, I agree with that. He said, so in turn, he's learned how to not take big hits. And usually whenever people say it, it's like, well, that's not possible. I got a chance to watch T.Y. Hilton become a master at this because T.Y. was undersized as a wide receiver. He had this incredible ability to get a lot of yards, and then as soon as he knew something was coming, get down. And at the beginning, everybody was like, oh, this guy's soft. Run a guy over, get that extra yard. It's like, yo, he's 165 pounds. How about we take care of him or applaud him for taking care of himself so he can last for the long haul? I think Lamar Jackson has a lot of that in him. He very much understands his abilities. He very much understands that he's the most athletic guy on the field, but he also understands that he's probably not going to be able to take a monster kill shot from one of these defensemen, so he's going to be able to get down.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. There's really no way to defend him, and it's tough too because in practice, like no one you're putting out there on the practice squad, like that's not giving you an accurate look. Like the first time you actually see what he's all about is during the game. Like it's just how do you defend him?
Yeah, everybody says like, oh, that team was faster than we saw in film, or they say, you know what, you can't see on film how physical that team was. I assume it is very difficult to understand just how elusive, quick, and fast Lamar Jackson is strictly from film. Now, granted, New England Patriots, if they can't figure it out, that's tough for the rest of the NFL.
Exactly.
Let's assume if Bill gets another crack at this, he'll have a little bit better understanding. But going back to your point about the practice film, or practice and scout team, whenever I ran quarterback for the scout team, I was only there for my arm. Okay? Hey, Pat, we need Drew Brees this week. I got you. Let me lick my fingers. Let me go ahead and tilt the helmet up like this. Let me give a motivational speech to a team. Every single position gets called out except for the kickers and punters because for some reason I know that the kickers and punters don't need a motivational speech. They're going to show up and do their job.
Exactly.
If you want me to be Drew Brees, I'll be Drew Brees this week. And that week in practice, I threw for 10,000 yards. Drew Brees threw for 11,000 yards in a game. So whenever you get anointed that duty to do the player from the other team, that's incredible. Grif Whalen. I think this is whenever I was sold on Grif Whalen. He was supposed to be Julian Edelman of the Patriots. He had 17 touchdowns that week as Julian Edelman. And watching practice, we're like, hey, why don't we do this with Grif? Like, hey, this is crushing our defense. By the way, Julian Edelman went on to do that in the game. So whenever you get this duty to play and be somebody in practice, it's a huge role. It's a big deal because when he put that scout team jersey in there and it's like 11, you're 11, okay? You're 9 or whatever. Is that what Drew Brees is? 9?
I think so, yeah.
You're 9. Like, that's a big – who do you have in – you have to find a corner that can throw well. Who do you find? You find a guy that's a wide receiver, maybe your kick returner, punt returner. Because Lamar Jackson he has the quickness of a kick returner, punt returner. He has the toughness of a running back. And he has the ball in his hands every single play. So he doesn't have to rely on somebody who, like most teams, you have to rely on somebody to get the ball to the most explosive player on the field's hands.
Right.
Lamar Jackson's getting it every single play. If you just look at odds, let's assume that he's going to have more explosive plays than anybody else because he's getting it every single time. And once Greg Roman and he got on the same page, which it feels like they have, like, hey, listen, Lamar, we can't be throwing like 50 times, all right? Yeah, we would like, you probably would have liked as a child to grow up to be an NFL quarterback, and in your eyes, it was probably like a drop-back passer, Lamar. I understand that people probably wanted you to be a wide receiver, so you hate the label of just being an athlete. You want to be a quarterback. You could still throw the ball. You threw the ball well yesterday. You'll throw the ball well, but we have to take advantage of the fact that you are the most explosive dude on the field. We just have to do it. I'm sure Greg Roman had a conversation with him, and the fact that Lamar was like, all right, let's do it. And the fact that Lamar has this very cool attitude, by the way, I love him. In press conferences, I love him. On the sideline, I love him. Whenever Hardball and he had that conversation on the sideline, he was like, let's go. I can get it. This kid is everything. He's a good leader. He's explosive. He seems to be very high football IQ, doesn't make a lot of big-time mistakes. Threw a couple interceptions a couple weeks ago. That's going to happen, young quarterback. But, man, it seems like they have it all. And for the Patriots, this is just a slip-up, man. This happens. They don't play real football until after Thanksgiving. They've told us that. Now, I've only been in this talk about football world for a couple years. My first year, I overreacted when I saw something on the Patriots. I was like, oh, no, it's over. Oh, no, it's done for. Tom's too old. The defense can't figure out what the next type of offense is going to be. Bill Belichick's going to get stumped as if there's going to be 30 other Lamar Jacksons that are going to come in and play quarterback somewhere. That was another thing that was hilarious to me. Do you think this is something that's going to be the trend for the NFL? Yeah, if there's 10 more Lamar Jacksons, which there isn't, if there is, let's assume that teams are going to be like, oh, yeah, since Lamar Jackson did good, let's assume that this guy that's the fastest guy on the field, that has the best vision on the field, that has the best demeanor and is a good leader is available. We'll draft him because of Lamar Jackson. No, if there's another Lamar Jackson coming out, you obviously would like him. I don't think we're going to see another one. He's like Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Very similar to Michael Vick right now. It's almost just like a video game to watch. He's very good. But let's assume Bill Belichick will have another game plan after something happened to him in a week where nobody expected it to happen. It was my get-back game. I lost a lot of money yesterday on FanDuel. A lot of money yesterday. I mean, I hadn't taken a beating that long since I called my mom a bitch whenever I was in 5th grade. That just slipped out. It just slipped out. I said, Mom, don't be a... And I said it. And my dad, you should have seen my dad. My dad gave me a look like, what did you just say about my wife? And I was like, and I went back at it, by the way, because once you say something, you got to take a stand. And my dad went ahead and handled the situation right there. That's what happened to me yesterday at FanDuel. FanDuel was my dad yesterday. They were my daddy. They absolutely killed me. And when I was speaking on the More Ways to Win show yesterday that I do every single Sunday, I thought I was going to win the most I'd ever won in my life. Colts +1 in Pittsburgh. Hammer time. I actually yelled at another guy on the show, told him he shouldn't be allowed to get paid and talk about football because he said he thought the Steelers were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how the turntables. I do apologize to that guy.
Well, he shouldn't have.
He's still coming after me today, by the way. Which I would too. I mean, I went after him because I thought that was a lock. Now, granted, Jacoby, I said it when we put out the video that I texted Chris Ballard, by the way.
Right.
Me training a quarterback because we are now down to our third quarterback this year.
Mm-hmm.
A once-in-a-generation All-Pro quarterback retired 16 days before the season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we find another all-pro quarterback, and people were like, Jacoby's all-pro? Yes, look at his numbers. Look at his numbers, compare him to all-pros of years past. He's an all-pro quarterback. And by the way, he was on pace to slice and dice the Yinzer Steelers in Pittsburgh. Instead, though, Cam Hayward just absolutely big bodies Quentin Nelson. That was a battle yesterday of two titans. I mean, Cam Hayward, I don't know if he gets enough respect nationally. He definitely didn't get enough respect from me. I assumed that Quentin Nelson, one of the angriest dudes I've ever seen play football, was going to come out and just slaughter that D-line with that offensive line. And I think Cam Hayward probably got that message too. Like, hey, last week against the Broncos, this offensive line did not do well. Let's assume they're going to want to come out. And Cam Hayward said, all right, bet. Cam Hayward put on a clinic yesterday. And now Quentin Nelson is a road grader. He's great at running rush attack. One of the best to ever do it already. But in the past set, it seems as if Cam Hayward got something on him. A little bit of a shake, locked him up, hit him with the bull. Bang, he goes back on Jacoby Brissett, stomps on his ankle, which hurts like hell anyways, and then bends back his knee. They say he has a sprained knee, and I think Frank Reich said MCL-ish.
Right.
He didn't go off the field. He remained in pads, earpiece in. I'm assuming they would have put him back in there if Hoyer gets hurt, but I don't know if you would want to do that. I don't know why he was out there. I mean, granted, there's really nothing you could do back in the locker room, and this kid's been a leader since last year. He called a team meeting, players-only meeting, as a backup quarterback.
Right.
I assume he didn't want to be in the locker room while his boys are out there, especially Hoyer, guy he's friends with and hasn't been around long. So I assume he wasn't going back. Couldn't have done more damage, so they kept him out there. But Hoyer comes in, and Hoyer almost gets a win for the Colts.
Yeah.
Hoyer starts battling. But that Steelers D-line does not get enough credit.
No, they don't.
That Steelers defense yesterday, T.J. Watt was explosive. Minkah Fitzpatrick, damn, he gets out of the sinking ship down there in Dolphin Town and becomes a playmaker for the Steelers. Steelers fans had to watch that game yesterday, and they didn't know much about the Colts. They didn't know going in. Everybody thought in Pittsburgh that spread was right, that the Colts should be underdogs. This Colts team is a very good team. The Pittsburgh Steelers team, very good team.
They're starting to come around.
They just don't have a quarterback.
Right.
Mason Rudolph did the job yesterday.
Well, they do have a quarterback. They just refuse
Ducky
to put him
Hodges,
in.
undefeated starter, is there.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is, let's assume that a NFL defensive coordinator, if it's a playoff game, is going to be able to get to Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
Steelers fans have to be like, man, we wish Roethlisberger was healthy this year. Tommy John, what the hell is that? Comes flying in out of baseball and takes out our guy. They look good. But the Colts had a loss that a couple weeks ago I said, the Colts are going to lose the game. And we're going to go, how the hell did the Colts lose that? And I told myself then, just like on draft day with Kevin Costner, where he said, blank, no matter what.
Right.
I told myself a couple weeks ago when I said the Colts are going to have a loss that's going to make us go, what the hell happened? I told myself, stick with the Colts, no matter what. So I'm going to stick with the Colts. Even though we lost another all-pro quarterback, and I sent a video into Chris Ballard to potentially help be a backup for Hoyer. No response, by the way. The internet liked it. The Colts lost that game yesterday. There was a lot of phantom calls by the refs, and the Steelers fans are like, well, what about the pass interference late? Agreed, very true. But I think there was 4 terrible calls for the Colts, 1 terrible call against the Steelers. But that particular call did set the Colts up to potentially win the game. Vinatieri had not been kicking the ball well. It was a lot of ugly kicks. I mean, Heinz Field is not the easiest place to kick anyways. But he was hitting the ball a little fat. It was going a little sideways. But he was still putting the ball through the uprights. So walking into that 40-some yarder there to win the game, I was a little bit torn. First, I thought it's Heinz Field. They deferred in the first half, so they got the ball in the second half, so they didn't get to pick which direction they wanted in the fourth quarter. So he's probably going into the windiest area, which can be tough. But then I thought back to myself, this is Adam Vinatieri. This is a minute left in the game to win the game. This dude's cold as ice, willing to sacrifice our love. The love has nothing to do with it other than my love of winning. And when he walked on that field, 1 minute left, I had the back of my mind saying he hadn't hit the ball that clean today. He's kicking in a very tough stadium on an end that is obviously tougher than the other end because they didn't get to select. But then on the other side, it was like, yeah, but this dude is the dude.
Yeah,
this is
never
the
a
most
doubt.
clutch dude in the history of sports. He goes out there. I'm standing right behind him. The video has been seen by millions of people on the internet already. And as soon as that ball gets held by Rigoberto Sanchez, incredible punter, and I assume he's a very good holder. I haven't looked that much. Good holder. As soon as that ball gets placed and I see the laces staring Adam Vinatieri directly in the schnoz, directly in his eyes, I knew we're in a bad spot. Because not only is he already battling the wind and the conditions and the fact that he hadn't been hitting the ball clean all day, now he's got to battle against science. And the science says this. Where the laces are is where the leather comes together. You see, where the leather comes together and the laces are there. So when you kick the ball on the other side, it's much firmer because it's been pulled tight. And the way a bat hits a baseball, how it pops off, and how a driver hits a golf ball, how it pops off, is how you want your foot to be with a football. Just kind of pops off. Yes, every time you kick, because the football has air inside of it, it will bend around your foot a little bit and then slingshot off. But when you're hitting the laces side, you see, because that's where everything's coming together, it is naturally, scientifically going to be the softest part of the ball. So whenever you hit that, the ball Compress. There it is. That a boy's
Easy.
The ball compresses even more. It wraps around the foot. It sticks on your foot. So when you're, as a righty, you pull off to the right, then it slingshots off. That's why anytime you see somebody hit a laces back ball, it's normally going to be a pull because it stays on your foot longer. How do you make the kick? Great question. Quick adjustment, open your hips, hit the ball out to the right a little bit if you see it in time. It is a very difficult thing. How else do you change it? Well, the snapper and the holder have to be at the same distance they always are. In the middle of the field can be a little difficult. The laces, though, and this is something that Finkel, Marino, Einhorn, Pet Detective really shaped our culture into thinking, but nowadays in football, maybe back then, but nowadays in football, the laces are 100% the snapper's job. That is what the long snapper gets judged upon. Some of these long snappers are so damn good. They can cover kicks well. They can block well. And when they snap on field goals, the laces are supposed to be all the way out. Some of these snappers are making millions of dollars a year to do this. It is so vital to the process. What has happened in the field goal kicking game is everything has gotten quicker as the athletes who have been trying to block kicks have gotten better. So now the entire operation is under 1.25 seconds, 1.3 seconds from the moment the ball moves to the moment the time is kicked. The snapper's job is to snap it, have the laces facing in a forward way, hit it right in the hands, and then block. And the holder's job is to put it down. Your first thought is make sure you get it on the right spot because everything comes down to inches. Then you have to get the right lean, and then laces is the last thing that you think about. But the only thing you're supposed to do with laces is correct any little error that the long snapper had. When it's all the way back here, and he spun it a little bit even back towards Beni, because that's a no man's land there, where your hands can't feel it and your eyes can't see it, you kind of panic a little bit. But when it's all the way back there, and you're trying to spin it all the way around, with how quick these kicks are going, kicking a spinning ball is even worse than kicking laces ball. So there's a lot that goes into this where everybody's like, oh, well, even with the laces, you should have done this. The holder should have done this. It was an operational failure from snap to hold to kick. Could all of them corrected each other? Yes, they could have. But all these things are happening so fast because of how fast the game is. A lot of people mention that Vinatieri chili dipped it. He hit behind the ball. And if you're utilizing golf for your reference, that would make sense. Because if you duff your club or your iron, it's going to to slow down the kick or slow down your swing and mess up the shot. In football, kickers hit behind the ball all the time, especially Vinatieri. I said every time on Get Up, let's not argue every time. I shouldn't have said in absolutes, but on a very regular occasion, when you're holding for Adam Vinatieri, your entire left side of your body will be filled with sand, and if you're on AstroTurf or that sport turf, black rubber from the tires that are in there. That's just a part of the thing that only happens from hitting beforehand. It is a normal thing for kickers to do. And sometimes it even helps out the kicker because it flattens out their foot a little bit. So you combine all of these things. Not hitting the ball clean all day, so needed a good and perfect operation. Seeing straight laces, Rigoberto Sanchez moving the laces into his eyes to distract him a little bit, and also pulling it because of the slingshot and the wind probably in that area. It was just a recipe for disaster that they all could have got better. And Vinny, whenever he makes a kick, it all sits on his shoulders. You don't hear about the operation. And when he misses a kick, it should all sit on his shoulders, I guess. But there's a lot more that goes into it than just Vinatieri kicking. He's missed a lot of kicks this year. I would argue that some of his kicks have been flat out ugly. That one yesterday, absolutely the case. It's very difficult, though, whenever you hit laces. You have to adjust quickly and do that. His last miss, though, a guy was standing directly in front of him, literally directly in front of him, so he could try to bend it. He didn't do that. A couple other times there's been ball moving while he's kicking. I mean, he has not had a great year by any means, but yesterday the operation didn't do him any favors, and I'd assume they'd bounce back because Luke Rhodes and Rigoberto Sanchez, two of the best at what they do. But every once in a while, you're just off on something. And when you're off on something that is supposed to happen in 1.25 seconds, it all gets magnified. It's just the way it goes. That's why our business is a tough one. And that's why you got to move forward. And I think Rigo and Rambo, which is Luke Rhodes' nickname, will move forward. And I think Vinatieri will as well and be better next time. But this is a game they shouldn't have lost going into it. Once that they lost, everybody's like, yeah, okay. The refs weren't really helping either team. Backup quarterback in. I think the Colts are still okay. And they got a hot Dolphins team they got to play against next week, so they got to get over it rather quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at everything yesterday, and there were just a lot of kind of anomalies with the different games. So it was just kind of one of those wonky weeks in the NFL. I think you chalk it up to that.
Wonky weeks,
yeah,
I like that.
Big time, you know. And even looking forward to next week, if Vinny's in that situation, you're still thinking that he's going to make it no matter what. I mean, it's just kind of what he's set up for himself at this point. You're going to miss one every once in a while. That's just the way it goes.
That's just the way it goes. Vinny has missed more than he should, though. We all agree with that. I think Justin Tucker missed an extra point last night. I don't know if he got blocked or not. I was asleep.
Yeah, I fell asleep, too.
I passed out.
He missed it straight up.
He missed it straight up?
But it went like right over the goalpost, so it was very controversial.
But this one, when you're dealing with things that are an eighth of an inch, which is what a kick is, a punt is, a golf shot is, every once in a while you're going to miss.
Right.
It's just the way it goes. Vinatieri has missed too much, though. He's not happy about it.
He'd probably tell you that, too.
Neither am I, by the way. I'm not happy about it either, man.
Right.
I bet a handsome amount of money on the Colts yesterday.
So did I.
I mean, a lot of people that listen to the show, they also bet on it. I feel bad that they lost. But, I mean, you lose Jacoby. What do you want from me?
I was going to say, keep in mind, guess what? Brian Hoyer's starting. We're getting Colts probably plus 10, plus 7, 7.5. I mean, we win that game yesterday.
You're right. Think about Hoyer, though. I think he's going to do okay. He can sling it a little bit.
He can.
He's been around, too. He got a chance to be with Tom Brady. I don't know how long Jacoby's out. And if Jacoby's healthy, I want Jacoby. He's an all-pro quarterback that nobody else has talked about. Look at his numbers and look at the way the man operates. Brian Hoyer came in, I think he was...
held his own. I
think he was okay.
Gave him a chance to win. That's really all you can ask.
No T.Y. Hilton. I did make this a mortal lock before the T.Y. Hilton news came out.
Right.
So I kind of had to stay by it. I still think they could have won that game without him. Obviously, they could have. But, boy, when you lose your quarterback... That is tough. And the refs did not help. The refs didn't help all across the board. We'll get to more about it, though. Can I get some music, please, behind me? I would like to read in a beautiful fashion.
Gonna need to bring that a little lower.
This isn't the right song for this either.
It's not.
It's not our music guy. This is,
It's arguably worse.
yeah, somehow it went from bad to worse. Just turn the music off. We'll go to music afterwards. Yeah, just turn the music off. Yep, just no music. Thank you so much. A recent Gallup survey shows Americans worry more about burglary than almost any other crime. More than mugging, more than terrorism, more than car theft, and even murder.
Jeez.
It is a geez moment, isn't it? There are over 2 million burglaries reported every single year. That's one every 13 seconds. And the crazy stat about that is only 1 in 5 homes have home security. And I think that's because most companies don't make it easy. It's big-time hassle. You got to let some randoms into your house. They track in leaves and snow and rain and everything. Then they're just drilling holes in your wall. Brrr. Then you got wires hanging out everywhere. You're like, what the hell's going on? I'm just trying to get a little bit more security. I'm not comfortable at all. Then Simply Safe came around and transformed the home security business by breaking down these barriers to get you the best, most reliable, and comprehensive protection available. Simply Safe protects every door, window, and room 24/7. Their police dispatch is up to 3.5 times faster because they use video verification. There's no contract, hidden freeze, or fine print. It's designed to blend right into your home. No wires, no drilling. It's easy to order and easy to set up, usually in under an hour.
Wow.
It's won a ton of awards, from CNET to the New York Times Wirecutter. Those awards matter.
Yeah, nothing to sneeze at.
If there's awards to be had in a field, I would like the security company I'm using to win those awards.
Bingo.
And that's what Simply Safe does. All they do is win, win, win.
No matter what.
Prices are always fair and honest. Around-the-clock monitoring is just $15 a month. Visit simplysafe.com/Pat. You'll get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. You've got nothing to lose. Why wouldn't you try? That's simplysafe.com/Pat. SIMPLISAFE.com/Pat. Joe Buck on the other side of the break. You're listening to The Pat McAfee Show.
Just when looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time, and I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time, and I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Hold out your hand, hold out your hand.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. I have no clue who that is, but it sounds a little bit like old Posty Malone. Can't be Post Malone, though, because we didn't pay for the rights for their music. So we got Hack Post Malone, who sounds damn good, to be honest with you. Speaking of a man that sounds damn good, whenever this guy calls a game, I'm always intrigued. It doesn't matter if it's baseball. It doesn't matter if it's football. This dude could call a tennis match, and I'd love it. This dude could call a checkers game, and I'd be enthralled. Very talented, very smooth, living legend joining us, Joe Buck. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how are we today?
I'm great. How are you? You had a day off yesterday. What did you do? I assume you just watch all the other games and commentating them at home by yourself.
Yeah. Driving my wife out of the room, back into the bedroom. No, I didn't. I watched some, but I've got 1.5-year-old twins, so I was. Yeah, I'm 50 with 1.5-year-old twins and 23 and 20-year-old daughters. So I was in and out of the room, up and down, shifting between the Chargers and the Packers and different versions of Baby Shark.
Okay, well, your daddy, incredible daddy shark operation. I would assume all of your children know that their dad's a legend, though, so that has to pay off, even though you work your ass off. So the wife or the lady, the mom probably enjoyed the fact that you were home. Let's talk about what you saw, though, in football yesterday. And you're a man who's been around the biggest moments in most sports. I mean, that's just fact. You call World Series, you call Super Bowls. You're everywhere at all times. How come it feels like sometimes teams just lay an egg? Yesterday seemed like a day where a lot of teams just laid an egg. Is this something that's expected, or is this a more telling thing, Joe?
I don't know. I feel like, it's a little different than it used to be. I feel like when you used to go into weekends, you knew that a certain team was going to win, and even if they didn't win, it was going to be competitive. And there are some games where it's just like a team doesn't show up. We get some of those on Thursday nights. I think sometimes that's a turnaround. You would know better than me, but I think, it's a lot for these guys to handle, and then they get the benefit of extra time on the back end of it. But you just wonder, sometimes the biorhythms of these teams, it just seems to come and go. And the fact that the Jets go to Miami and the Dolphins put up 26 points on the Jets is shocking. And, if you're a Jets fan today, you got to be wondering where is this team headed and how do I get excited about it? Because Miami, anybody that had a pulse was being traded out of there, and, they put up 26. That's not a good day.
Congrats to the Bengals, by the way, in the driver's seat for the number 1 pick. It's got to feel good in Cincinnati when that's what you're shooting for this year.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. And I don't know. I said this the other night on Thursday Night Football. I'm a huge hockey fan and a Blues fan, and the Blues were doing this, 15 years ago, whenever it was, when they traded Chris Pronger because they didn't want to pay him. They were going through a big shift, and it wasn't so much about draft picks as much as it was about not paying a star, and the team changed ownership. And then the minute you get a different feel, well, you feel like you want to go back and undo a lot of that stuff. In the case of the Blues, then you need a stay-at-home, big, tough defenseman, and you had him, and now he's gone. And if you're the Dolphins, how about a left tackle? Okay, well, we had him, but we traded him. And it seems like it's a never-ending cycle that some teams just they want to play that bet, and they never get back to where they were. They're banking on the draft, and I think the draft is, pretty much a crapshoot at this point.
I think so, too. You see just as many first-round picks dominate as it almost feels like you see them kind of fizzle out after a couple years. It's just the way the game is, especially with injury possibilities and the adapting to a professional lifestyle as opposed to an amateur lifestyle, even though that might be changing here. You're 100% right. I'm all about building through veterans and through the draft, but I think tanking is just a tough look, even if it does pay off. If this ends up paying off, though, for the Dolphins or Bengals, you're going to see other owners go, maybe we should think about it. I mean, the Colts, we stunk, and we got Andrew Luck, which kind of kept our franchise afloat there. You're going to see owners potentially go, maybe we give it a shot if we're at the bottom of that thing. Do you think that's the case, or do you think every owner is going to see this and be like, that's not what our sport's all about?
I hope it's the latter because, for every Andrew Luck, there was RG3 right behind him. And, he had the good first year, and then for whatever, and obviously the knee injuries didn't help, but he wasn't what everybody thought he was going to be. And you go back for the Colts the previous time, and it was either Lee for Manning, and Manning ended up being the tremendous player, and Leaf was finished hours later. So it's just, you don't know, and I think it buys general managers extra time, it buys head coaches extra time, because you keep saying, well, just stick with us. Work for the Cubs in baseball. Every once in a while these things work out. But for the most part, it can be death to a franchise, too. If you whiff on the draft, you can get all these picks you want. But then it's a question of, who's making the picks and who's doing the scouting. And are those guys really any good? And if they're not, then you're double bad off.
You're 100% right. Let's pivot a little bit to your career. Joe, I have a question. Why do you hate my team?
It is the number one question in October in my life. And, everywhere I go, when I did just this last October, for an example, I'm sitting there in Houston, fans in front of me are, within literal reach of me. And, for the most part, people are nice. But every once in a while, you get a guy walking, going, you hate the Astros, you suck, you want the Yankees to win. And then you go to New York during the same series, and the guy's behind the plate with a Joe Buck Sucks T-shirt because he thinks that I'm rooting for the Astros. It's a pretty easy phenomenon, and I could be seminars on this, but all year long, when fans are listening to their hometown announcers do games, and I used to do it for St. Louis, you don't even really talk about the other team, let alone get excited when they hit a home run. But when you show up as the national guy, you have to get excited for both teams, and then both fan bases think you're rooting for the other side. So you just can't win. You can't play the game. And I know this. Whenever I'm done, they'll be saying the same thing about the next person in that position. My dad used to get it, and Scully used to get it, but it took a letter with a stamp, which kids don't even know how to do anymore. And now it takes 140 characters, and you can find out how much you suck if you wade through the internet.
Joe, I think you're like the Patriots, though, right? Everybody will be mad at you because they think you hate them. Just like the Patriots. Everybody hated them. And then at some point here, I think relatively soon, just like what has happened to the Patriots, everybody just has the utmost respect for it. It's like, you know what? Joe Buck has been crushing it for 40 years, it feels like. Every big-time event is better with his voice on it.
Right.
I think you just have to get to that. You're like probably 5 years away from that happening, so I'm sorry you have to deal with that on a daily basis. But I think
you can say, if we can make that deal right now, and if in 5 years, in whatever, 2024, November 2024, it's over with, that's fine. If it's not, it doesn't really matter. I don't give a hell anymore about it. I'm sick of it. I've been dealing with it since I was like 23, and I get it. I understand it. As I said, I'm a Blues fan. So when the Blues made this run to the Stanley Cup, I was for the local guys that I hear all year long, John Kelly and Darren Pang, to do the game because they have a rooting interest along my same lines. And when the national guys show up, as great as they are, it's like, yeah, okay, I know it sounds like you're rooting for the other team. I know in my core you're not because you don't care, but it doesn't sound like my guys doing it. I get it. It doesn't really bother me that much.
Hey, you and Troy are my guys if it means anything. I love listening to you guys call a game. Troy and you have this beautiful chemistry and this perfect amount of knowledge and also a little bit of fun. And you guys will get salty, too, if something needs to be called out, which I appreciate and respect.
Yeah, and unfortunately, well, thank you. A lot of stuff is needed to be called out this year. I think with regard to the officiating and whatnot. I hope that, we've got a Super Bowl coming up in Miami, and you just hope that coming out of that, it's a conversation about who won and who lost, not why somebody got ripped off by a call. And I just think every year, it's the biggest part of our job is understanding the rules. And if we don't understand it, I have Mike Pereira, 2 bodies to my right on the other side of Troy, and he's the ultimate catch-all. And it's just become so confusing that I think the average fan is looking at it like some of these things don't pass the vision or the smell test. And that's the tough thing. They made it infinitely more difficult on these officials to do these games. And in this day and age, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of patience for a mistake. So I'm hopeful, and maybe by the end of the year, this will have cleared up a little bit, but it seems like every Monday you come out of a weekend of football and something else happened where they blew a play dead and it should have been a fumbled return for a touchdown and whatever it might be, or a phantom call. It's unfortunate. They're aware of it, and I think they're trying to get a better handle on it.
Do you get a call from the league? Because I would assume the networks don't want you calling things out with the league because they have to deal with negotiations business-wise with the NFL. But I think at this point, you and Troy are voices of the game, voices of the league. Do you feel obligated to call things out and make sure people understand, yeah, Joe's seeing the same things we are? And a follow-up to that is, do you get calls from people that aren't happy with the stuff that you guys say during games?
It's a great question. I can honestly say that I've been doing this professionally since I was 21, and I've never had a league call with any complaint of anything that I've said. And I think, as you said, you are seeing the same thing the fans are seeing. And if you're going to hide the truth or not be honest about what your opinion is, to me, Troy Aikman's won 3 Super Bowls. He's earned his opinion. He's been out there. He's given the blood, sweat, and tears. He knows what it takes to win. He's taken a million hits at quarterback, and sometimes some of these, hand slaps on the top of the helmet drive him crazy. But we understand the rules, and you can not love the rule, whatever it may be, and still accept the call, because that's just the way they want it called. And I think that's been a major shift in the way he thinks and the way I think, consequently. But you can also understand the rule and then not agree with the way that they interpreted the rule or called it in that instance. That's why pass interference is such a subjective call that I think you have to be honest. And if you don't have your honesty, then I think you're asking people to believe you some of the time. And I think you have to be consistent, and if you feel it, say it. You can't be idiotic and just, I think eventually fans don't want to hear that over and over and over. You have to have a balance, but I think you have to be honest with what you're seeing and then just not continually bang the drum and go back to it.
Yeah, because you could lose credibility if you're not speaking for the fan when every other time you are. I think you and Troy balance it beautifully. Last question here before we go, and I can't thank you enough for your time. You've gotten a chance to call everything. You've won 7,000 Emmys. You're a guy, you and Troy are people that I look up to whenever I get a chance to get in the booth. I watch your games. I try to learn as much. What's the most awesome moment of your career?
Well, with regard to football, we can keep it with that. I think the 2007 Super Bowl, the Giants and the Patriots, with the Patriots going for a perfect season, the Giants, and that was Eli Manning's postseason coming out party, and watching that game unfold and then going back and forth in the fourth quarter and kind of getting through that game, knowing it was unbelievable, with the way it ended, and getting in the car after that game and feeling like you did well, you didn't blow it, you were a part of something that was big. it's a weird feeling, and I know you got to go, but it's a weird feeling when you're doing a game for 115 million people, and all you feel like is, God, I hope I don't make a mistake, which is a terrible way to do anything. And when you get through it, and you feel like, you know what, we did that game justice, and we did it as best we could. It's such a satisfying feeling, and those moments are few. But that's the one that I look back on. And then as far as one singular moment, the Stefon Diggs walk-off touchdown a couple of years ago in the playoffs was breathtaking. And to see a guy not hop out of bounds automatically, turn around and run to the end zone untouched, and the game ended and it flipped in an instant. The walk-off touchdown in football is something that you don't get enough of. And when you get that, you got to enjoy it.
I'd say we don't get enough of you, brother, even though you're all over the place. The voice of the Minneapolis Miracle, the voice of the helmet catch by Tyree, the voice of World Series, golf, football, you name it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so thankful you joined us, Mr. Joe Buck. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
Cheers, man. He's so good.
Right. Consummate professional.
He literally is so good.
Mm-hmm. Just the best.
Everybody thinks that he hates their team.
Yeah, I don't really get that.
Well, it's because I think the way you could deliver a certain thing, you can make you. If you already have the preconceived notion that he hates your team, and then he says something, you're like, I knew it, and it's just like, especially with the way social media is, you just get straight to it. You know what I mean? 10:47 here. We got to get to a break on this beautiful November 4th. Very thankful for Joe Buck.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was really cool. 100 and some million people listening to him call.
I know.
That's real good. 10:47. We'll be back. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. I thought this was going to be a banger, and then I remembered.
Yeah. It sounded like a Kanye beat almost.
I thought we were about to have a heater, and then I remembered we don't have heater.
Yeah, this song stinks, actually.
No, it's not bad. I mean, it's a hack song. It's copyright-free music. That's what it is. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show, 10:53 here. We get about 2 minutes before we got to go to a break. I wanted to go to the phones, but since our callers got directed to a different studio inside of this building, Zito almost got beat up by a couple of New Yorkers just moments ago.
It was bad, but I took them all down.
It's not true. They literally all just walked away like they were gentlemen, but it did look a little sketchy that a couple of Italians were going to come in and slaughter Zito just like the Chargers did to the Packers.
Oh, come on. But I've heard it both ways, though.
Now, the Chargers and Packers yesterday was a game that I thought the Packers were going to whole-handedly win. Packers were hot. Nothing would tell us the difference of Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur. Nothing would tell us that they weren't on the same page, that they weren't going to dominate. Instead, you get 0 points basically in the first half. The Chargers defense gets healthy, and all of a sudden now the Packers are 7-2 with a game that they'll look back on and say, you know what? That one woke us up. That's how I feel it'll go.
Yeah, for sure. Rodgers said after the game, it was a slice of humble pie. I think that's what they needed because they were feeling themselves quite a bit.
How could you not, by the way?
Start reading the press clippings. And Rodgers also, which was pretty telling, he said we need to look at what we're doing 48 hours before the game and readdress some of that stuff. So I don't know if there was some other stuff going on with guys not taking things seriously. They also said they got into L.A. much later than they thought they would or that they would have liked to. So we'll see. But I think this is good for the Packers. They needed to get their ass kicked to kind of give them a wake-up call, and they got lucky that everyone else in the NFC North lost yesterday as well.
That is so interesting. I wonder who had a party 48 hours before the game before traveling to L.A. Oh, I'm excited to hear about it. A little drama up there in Green Bay. The Patriots lose. Nobody thought they were going to lose. Patriots lost. Colts lost. I didn't think they were going to lose.
Vikings get beat by Matt Moore.
Vikings lose to a Matt Moore-led Chiefs. Seahawks, what an incredible game by Russell Wilson. Tampa Bay Buccaneers were all the way up. They were up 21-3, I think, at one point. Russell Wilson is a magician. That's what he is. He's an absolute magician. He plays football better than most people play football. Just like Lamar Jackson and those Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be a wide-open NFL season for the last 8 weeks or whatever it is.
Yep.
Houston Texans look damn good.
Yeah, they do.
I'm excited to see how this all plays out. It's 10:55. We'll be back on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
'Cause I'll be backsliding. I need a little guiding for my soul. Only heaven knows. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. But every now and then I get a feeling in my bones that I'm just wandering on my own. So I hit my knees and I'm crying out, please, oh Lord, won't you bring me back home? Yeah, wash me in the water, cleanse me in the mercy of your love. I need a heavenly touch, 'cause I'll be backsliding. 'cause I'll be backsliding. I need a little guiding for my soul. Only heaven knows. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. Every now and then I get a feeling in my bones that I'm just wandering on my own. So I hit my knees and I'm crying out, please, oh Lord, won't you bring me back home? Yeah. Wash me in the water, cleanse me in the mercy of your love. I need a heavenly touch, 'cause I'll be backsliding. I need a little guiding for my soul. Only heaven knows. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. It's the perfect occasion for a mental vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication. 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. It's 11:01 Monday, November 4th. Wild first hour. Got a chance to talk to Joe Buck about all things in the world, including sports. And why does he hate everybody's team? That was worth a listen. I think you should go back and listen to it, to be honest with you. It was a good conversation. Got a chance to talk about the Colts and Vinatieri's miss, and the Colts being the lock of all locks in my eyes until they run into Mason Rudolph, Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, and the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Jacoby Brissett getting hurt my feelings, hurt my heart, hurt my prediction that the Colts are going to win the Super Bowl. That dude was an all-pro. He's not an all-pro. Go look at the numbers. Jacoby Brissett was an all-pro quarterback. Hoyer came in and did well, though. I mean, we're not going to knock him. He had not been getting many reps, I'd assume. This whole game plan is revolving around Jacoby Brissett. This week, if Jacoby's not going to play, Frank Reich will draw it up for Brian Hoyer to succeed. He did well. Got him in position to win. Missed field goal. Cost him a game. Cost me a lot of money on FanDuel. I bet a lot. I hammered that thing. But that wasn't the only game. No. The Packers lost me a lot of money. The Vikings lost me a lot of money. The Patriots lost me a lot of money. Yesterday was just a weird day in the NFL.
It was. I mean, like you said, all these teams, I think it'll be good for them going forward because a couple of them, it's just you really need something like this to kind of galvanize you for the second half of the season. But it just, I mean, it's tough. We didn't expect any of that stuff to happen yesterday.
The Browns are dead, by the way.
Oh, they stink.
That body's been cold for a few weeks now, too. It's like that guy, Richard Kolklinski. I believe he was known as the guy, the ice murderer.
He was the Iceman,
The Iceman. That's the Browns. You know, they've been missing for a few weeks, but they've been confirmed dead yesterday. Shout out to the Broncos for just killing the Browns. Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't lost his mind yet. Jay Feely reported a couple things yesterday, and Jay Feely and I have a noted disrespectful relationship. Mostly, I don't respect him. I don't think he respects me. But yesterday, he had some great reports, to be honest with you. The NFL wasn't going to allow Jarvis and Odell onto the field in the second half if they didn't change their damn shoes. This team has lost 100 games. And now their two-star players aren't going to be able to play because they won't change their shoes until they did. Now, they came out afterwards and made a statement that the jersey they were originally going to wear, they would have been allowed to wear those shoes.
Right.
They changed the jerseys, so then they had to wear uncomfortable shoes in the second half. That's just even more dysfunction in an organization that is built off of dysfunction.
Everything matters but football, it seems like. It's like they
Why are we changing the jersey color?
Right. They piss and moan about everything with the exception of what's going on the football field.
And, by the way, I like those Joker cleats that Odell was wearing.
Those were awesome.
I bet you those were very comfortable. But those Joker cleats aren't going to change the fact that Freddie Kitchens won't give him the damn ball, and Baker Mayfield won't get him the damn ball either. Odell's been handling these very professionally until yesterday. Jay Feely reported that Odell walking off the field said, I can't get a damn ball or something like that. Mm-hmm. But in the media, he didn't do that, so I respect it. Jay Feely eavesdropped a little bit and heard that. As long as Odell isn't coming out to the media saying, I can't get a damn ball, this place stinks, and this coach, I don't know who hired him. I don't know why they hired him. But the fact that they hired him wasted the trade of me completely, which is facts. That last play of the game, 4th down, he was one-on-one on the outside, and he had 2 steps on the guy. Probably a touchdown, by the way. Not just a first down.
No,
Probably a touchdown. That's what Odell Beckham does. And instead, they throw in a double coverage to Jarvis Landry, and he looked at the running back first. Said running back, by the way, not Nick Chubb, the other best player on their offense, not even on the field. It makes no sense what Freddie Kitchens is doing, and it's a shame for the dog pound because the ineptitude of head coach there has been there for a long time. Hugh Jackson got fired when they were 2-5-1 or something like that last year. And Greenberg mentioned that this morning, like, well, don't you think they should think about firing Freddie Kitchens? I'm like, yeah, they should look at it. It's been a overhyped, under-delivered team. There's a lot of room for regret in there or disappointment, which is what the fans feel. So anytime you're hyped up, by the way, that had to be the last thing Freddie Kitchens wanted to hear about his team going in there. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're being pushed up to the top, this team is one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. This team's going to do this. This team's going to do that. That's just setting up for either if you win, you're supposed to, and if you lose, what happened? It has to fall on the Kitchens table. Everybody knows that. But now they're at that point where they have been nothing short of disappointing. Ravens are getting hot. Steelers get a win somehow. They're basically just falling completely out of contention, and they're dead as a doornail. And how – doorbell. No, doornail.
Doornail, yeah.
That is a doornail. Mm-hmm. I don't think I know what a doornail is.
You know, this expression is as old as time.
I believe it's a nail that goes on a door.
Attaboy Zito. Attaboy Z. Attaboy Z. Thanks for getting that one out. But at some point, these Browns are going to have to figure something. Is it Baker? Is Baker the reason why Odell Beckham isn't getting the ball? Is Baker the reason why they stink? Is Baker the reason why Chubb isn't on the field in 3rd and 4th down situations when they need a run? Or is this Freddie Kitchens designing dumb plays, not getting his playmakers the ball, refusing to acknowledge the fact that they don't have the offensive line to run the type of offense that Bruce Arians wants to run? You're not a Bruce Arians team, Freddie Kitchens. Are you going to adapt or are you going to die? I feel like the latter has been with the case for the Browns, and the dog pound doesn't deserve to be dead dogs right now.
Yeah, I mean, the jury is out on him. He stinks. He's not a good coach. Baker Mayfield has regressed so much this year.
Bad.
Like real bad. I mean, he doesn't look comfortable out there at all. He's missing guys, you know, even like easy completions. He's throwing it, you know, like a little bit behind guys. He's not hitting them in the breadbasket. But I don't know. I mean, I think they're trying to do a service to him and not, you know, make things worse moving forward. But it's very clear that this guy sucks and he's not going to win you any more football games.
Baker Mayfield shows up with a beard, plays with a Fu Manchu, and knows that he can't go to the press conference after a loss like that with a Fu Manchu. So
right.
I respect the fact that Baker had enough self-awareness to know I can't do that. But he keeps the mustache, which was a hilarious look. Greenberg was like, he looked like Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
That people were saying that. A lot of people were saying he looked like a wet or sticky bandit from Home Alone.
I'll tell you what, they shouldn't have messed with Charlie. Not Charlie, is that his name? Kevin. Charlie is from Santa Claus. Shouldn't have messed with him either, by the way. He'll shake that little snow globe, and old Tim Allen's going to come flying back into town quickly. But Kevin was such a G, just beat the hell out of this.
Exactly.
Bandits, the wet bandits, whatever you want to call them. He looked bad. Whatever the case is, they've looked bad. They've looked terrible. And I've completely lost hope in them, which I rarely do, especially with teams that have that many superstars on it, because you would like to think that the locker room is strong enough to overcome the ineptitude of the coach. You would like to think that the locker room would be like, hey, this guy stinks. But, Baker, if you see Odell in single coverage, I don't care what the play is, let's get him the damn ball. And if Chubb isn't on the field, Baker, you have to be the adult in the situation and say, hey, it's 4th and 1. Why don't we have the guy that ran for 700 yards last week? Why don't we have him out here? Like, it's going to have to come to a time where the players are going to have to start taking even more control, because I fear what's going to happen is the players are going to go the complete opposite direction, and they're just going to stop caring or stop trying about the dog pounds and only care about the paychecks, which have already come, and try to find their shine however they can. A way to find shine is starting to bash the team in the media. A way to find shine is wear shoes that don't fit the uniform.
Right.
A way to find shine is by doing things on Twitter. A way to find shine is to do other stuff. So it's like, I'm worried that the players are going to start doing that, as opposed to taking the team as a whole and saying, hey, we're going to start making the decisions around here.
Exactly. I mean, the one thing I would say for Freddie Kitchens is I think he does care. I mean, at least he cares whether or not they win or lose. Like, that kind of shows in the post-game press conferences. He's just an absolute buffoon, which isn't really his fault. But you look at a guy, then you look at a guy like Adam Gase.
That guy stinks.
Yeah, he's the worst, Not only is he a terrible football coach, moron. I mean, the only season he's ever been worth a damn was when Peyton threw for like 58 touchdowns.
And by the way, when Peyton threw for 58 touchdowns, Peyton was calling the plays. Peyton was deciding who was on the field. Peyton was running the practice. Peyton was running the weight room. Peyton was probably running the valet if he wanted to. That's an interesting little situation to be as a quarterback coach, to have a guy that's making all the decisions for you, who's notably one of the greatest of all time.
Exactly. So, boom, he gets a head coaching job in Miami, goes down there, newsflash, he sucks.
Stinks.
Goes up to the Jets.
One of his assistant coaches is in there doing Colombian Bam Bam in the middle of the day.
Exactly. But the thing that really drives me insane is you can't get your ass beat every single week and then go into the press conference and just be an absolute jerk to everyone. Like, it doesn't work like that. No one likes this guy. He doesn't care. He thinks he's the smartest guy on the face of the earth. Newsflash, pal. If you're not a little more cognizant of things, you're going to get whacked, and they're going to throw you into the bottom of the river here, which maybe they should do.
Whoa.
He's terrible.
I mean, that's quite a turn at the end there, Ty, from Waterloo, Iowa.
He's just an ass. I mean, we're surrounded by all these Jets fans. I'm saying, hey, what do you think about Gase?
They hate him.
Yeah, hate him.
He is on the outs with the Jets fans for sure. Le'Veon Bell said you got to be patient, all that stuff. He said you don't get embarrassed by this. Beep.
Right.
2 weeks ago, he said he was embarrassed by the Patriots.
Exactly. I mean, he's a horse's ass. There's really no other way to say it.
He's rich, though. 11-11. We got to go sell some ads here. We got to have you listen to some commercials. We got a guy named Chris Mannix on the other side. Sports Illustrated, DAZN contributor. He'll be talking about the boxing match that was this weekend. Canelo Alvarez knocked somebody out. That fight was delayed due to Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz for the BMF title. Interesting strategy. I'll ask Mannix about that. I'll ask about the fight. I'll ask about everything. It's 11:12. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. I still don't know why. July when weekend. Going to I don't believe it. I got time, she's got free. Heartbreak, no, it don't break me. What if we just start singing all the songs
That's
that
not
these
a bad
hack
idea.
songs sound like?
That's not a bad idea.
We're probably going to get fined for that. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show, 1117. Been talking a lot about the NFL. Let's shift gears here because we got a man with a big brain who happened to be at a fight this weekend where another man knocked out another man. Joining us, a guy who writes words for Sports Illustrated. He's a DAZN contributor, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Mannix. Chris Mannix.
I didn't know if that was the official cue to talk there, Pat. It wasn't entirely. This whole radio thing's kind of new to me.
Well, normally we can FaceTime. Here at the SNY studio, we cannot do that. So it's only audio. So whenever you don't have the optics involved, it can be a little bit difficult. But I think you chimed in there right at the perfect time.
I got to say, too, that description of the Canelo-Kovalev fight you just made, it makes me encouraged for hearing your analysis on the KSI Logan Paul card this weekend. I think you've now kind of cracked that boxing code.
Yeah, I mean, I know the boxing. I know human cockfighting pretty good. I mean, that's kind of what I'm into. The Alvarez-Kovalev fight this weekend on Saturday, a lot of people were excited about it, humming it up. I saw 4 commercials every primetime football game for it. Canelo, pound for pound, the best fighter on earth, knocked out another man. You guys waited until after the UFC fight was over. What was the mindset behind that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a business decision. There is a belief, clearly, by DAZN executives that there is a significant crossover in fan support, that there are people that want to watch the UFC event live and also want to watch the DAZN fight live. And my understanding was that despite a really long delay, and let's be clear, the delay was extended because Ryan Garcia, the fight before Canelo, he scored a pretty stunning first-round knockout. I mean, I think a lot of people expected Garcia in his toughest fight to date to go some rounds there, and he didn't, and he scored the knockout, and that just made the wait almost interminable. But my understanding is that there were a lot of fans that came over, as soon as the UFC fight ended, that logged on to DAZN and watched the fight. So as painful as it was in that moment, and believe me, Pat, I did a lot of filling in that hour plus. I was Captain Phil for that team for the next hour plus. It got a larger audience, as simple as that. And for a fight of that magnitude, I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, 11 rounds in, the fight gets stopped or whatever. I think it still would have been going no matter how long the UFC fight would have went if the TKO happened or not. Interesting decision. I enjoyed the images of Kovalev and Alvarez trying to stay warm. They did that. They get into the ring.
I love those optics. I thought, though, we could have done without maybe those optics of guys just kind of – it leads to, like, memes on social media and some stuff that you don't really need.
Well, you pay a guy $360 million. I mean, people are going to want to watch him fight. So it makes sense to me. The fight, though, for the guy that I just spoke about, Canelo Alvarez, it felt like he was really in control that whole time. And then in that 11th round, he really just made child's play out of the guy and delivered the heavy right. That guy's got cinder blocks on his wrists.
Yeah, I mean, it was a relatively, I wouldn't say boring, but it was uneventful for the first 10-plus rounds. It just seemed like Canelo was just trying to get closer and closer to Kovalev's body throughout that fight. The first couple of rounds, he was kept at bay with a really good jab from Kovalev. Kovalev threw 745 punches. That was almost double what Alvarez threw. So he was throwing stuff out there just to try to keep Alvarez off him. But come the 10th round, he started to get a little bit closer. And then the 11th round, I mean, you mentioned the right hand had finished it, but he hit him with a left hand that caught him right behind the ear. And if you watch the replay of that knockout, you see Kovalev his body goes to jello, and his arms drop, and it just leaves him wide open for that big right hand. And Canelo just stood there, set up, and threw just a bomb to the chin of Kovalev that sent him down and almost halfway through the ring ropes. It was I haven't really looked at the knockouts of the year in terms of ranking them, but that's right up there. I mean, that was a boom left hand. and a straight right to put him straight down.
For people that have never seen Canelo Alvarez fight, what is it like, especially in person? Is it just an electric atmosphere? Is that arena ready to go crazy for him? And at any given moment, that thing can all come crashing down with one big right or left.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Mexican fans in general are terrific. I mean, they have always supported their fighters, dating back to Julio Cesar Chavez in the 80s and 90s. But Canelo is that next guy. He's the biggest star in Mexican boxing, the biggest star in North American boxing. So they came out to support. And, Canelo, early in his career, you didn't know that he had this necessarily. I mean, he wasn't knocking guys out, not high-level guys out at the early part of his career. I mean, he was going decisions with Erislandy Lara and Austin Trout. Guys are good at 154 pounds. He didn't knock out or knock down Gennady Golovkin. But when you go up against a guy that can't handle that speed, and that's what it is. It's not just like the crushing one-punch power that he has. It's the blinding speed that comes with that power. I mean, trainers will always tell you, fighters will always tell you, the worst thing you get hit with is something you can't see. And that's what Canelo is really capable of, and that's what Kovalev got hit by.
I can't see you right now, but I think this has been doing pretty good. You've been hitting us with all the great facts of boxing this weekend. KSI, Logan Paul, 2 YouTubers settle the beef in Los Angeles, only on DAZN. It's fight season. What should people be looking forward to for that?
Look, if you watch the first fight, it was entertaining. I mean, they were going at it back and forth. I know that the boxing diehards and the purists have been kind of lampooning this fight, but
to hell with them.
I've said this on the broadcast, Pat. Like, I talked to a lot of matchmakers in boxing, and several of them told me, like, we've put on crappier fights than this. Like, this is not. And if you watch the undercard, we saw Evan Holyfield on the undercard Saturday night destroy a guy that looked like he was, came off a lacrosse team. Like, it was. I mean, it doesn't. It's not like there are bad fights in boxing. I think people are just upset. This is the main event in boxing. But one thing I would say that I'm fascinated by, the first fight between these two guys over in the UK last year, they had headgear on. So, the punches were somewhat mitigated by hitting in the guard. This one, there's no headgear. So we've got some fighter meetings with these guys this week, and one of my first questions is going to be like, have you ever been in a fight before, like where you get hit in the face? Like, I have, and I wasn't very good at it. I mean, I was, I think, in my years as a guy fighting on the streets, so to speak, I was like 3-13. When I got hit, I went down. I had no chin whatsoever. Huh. Like, do these guys, have they ever been hit in the face? Like, because I think that's something that could be a wake-up call as they get clobbered without the headgear for the first time.
Those are tough numbers, Chris. You probably just lost all of your street cred, getting knocked out 13 times.
I'm from the South Shore in Boston. Like, that's not. I wasn't very good.
Southie guys get knocked out 13 times.
South Shore, not so much.
Okay, all right. Well, Chris, we appreciate you so much for your incredible insight. We will see you this weekend at that KSI Logan Paul fight. You're the best.
Looking forward to it, Pat.
All right, Chris. We got to get to another break. We'll get some phone calls. We'll talk about the Cowboys-Giants tonight. Mm-hmm. Obligatory Cowboys talk. Are they all the way back? Is Ezekiel Elliott going to run for 700 yards tonight? Or is Danny Dimes and Saquon Barkley going to turn it up? Let's not forget Golden Tate, by the way. 11:25, you're listening to The Pat McAfee Show. Nope. November 4th already.
No.
This world is flying by at a rapid rate. The NFL season took quite a turn yesterday. Some teams stumbled on their road to greatness, or did they take a direct turn into Suckville? Jacoby Brissett sprained MCL.
Yep.
I don't know what that means. Honestly, I have no idea what that means. I hope he comes back sooner than later. Now it is Hoyer's time to shine. Sitting behind him will be Swag Kelly, who is always ready to dime.
So they're waiting on the MRI before they make a decision on whether he'll be available on Sunday.
Available or play, I wonder.
It said available, but I would assume that means play.
Patrick Mahomes looked very, very good in that celebration in the Chiefs beating the Vikings on a Harrison Butker 44 or 41-yard field goal after hitting a 50-some-yard field goal to tie it up. Good for Harrison Butker. Good for the Chiefs, and it looks like Pat Mahomes is ready to be back. Resting him a couple weeks and let that stud Matt Moore come in and get him a win, massive for the entire kingdom over there. Andy Reid is really smart, man.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to take advantage of all of his weapons is so good. It's like what Freddie Kitchens wishes he could do. Imagine if Andy Reid had, well, he kind of does, I guess. Tyreek Hill,
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, Watkins, LaShawn McCoy, Hardman, that other running back yesterday that had like a 90-yard run,
Damian Williams.
and Matt Moore. But that's what people expect, though, whenever you have all these weapons. You expect your coach to take advantage of them. That's why Freddie Kitchens is getting hammered right now.
Exactly.
Matt Nagy came from the Kansas City Chiefs. Can't do a damn thing with Mitchell Trubisky. Told him to go watch film, the TV copy, and look at your body language and your confidence. It's like, mid-season. Let's not be looking at our body language or confidence in a big game. Let's look at the X's and O's and see why I stink, is what Mitchell Trubisky should be saying. And I found out why, by the way. Last year, he was overall total number 3 QBR in the NFL. A lot of those plays were him moving.
Mm-hmm.
Moving, play action, design draws, design plays, or design runs, things like that. This year, this last week, there was only 1 design run, 0 him moving out of the pocket design. Nagy wants him to be a statue in there, utilize his eyes, and kind of pick a team apart. I don't think Trubisky can do that.
He's not good at that.
I thought there'd be self-evaluation. Say, hey, we got to get this guy moving outside the pocket, on the run a little bit. Let him utilize his legs from North Carolina a little bit more than just standing there and stinking. Bears are dead. Browns are dead. But the Chiefs still look alive, and it's because Matt Moore could get a big win. Tyreek Hill, by the way, put on a show last night. Put on an absolute show. Diving catches, things like that. Andy Reid was all pumped up. And the way Patty Mahomes is celebrating, you have to say, well, that guy's healthy. He's going to be back. He was running backwards. He was running forwards. He was jumping. He spun a little bit. I saw an entire conditioning test there for his knee in that celebration. He came running on the field. I'm like, oh, look how happy they are. I'm like, all right, let's see if he plants on that leg at all. And then he planted. I was like, all right, let's see if he runs backward a little back pedal. I'm like, ooh, that is literally all the tests right there in a moment of emotion with 0 Toradol or anything else like that because he wasn't playing. Pat Mahomes looks like he's about to be all the way back. Good for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, buddy.
Do you think that it's possible that Nagy in Chicago is doing this with Trubisky because it's not his guy necessarily, it's Pace's guy, and he's like, all right, this guy stinks, he's bad, so let's put him in a situation where I know he's not going to be successful, and then we don't have to worry about re-signing him at the end of the season.
I don't know how to react here. Do I go overreaction Monday and say, yeah, that sounds like that's exactly what he's doing? You only have him run the ball 1 time? At least let the guy run for his life on a design play or 2. Let people at least fear the fact that he's going to get outside the pocket and extend the play. Let him do it, Nagy.
Wouldn't that be Nagy's job, though, if it's just horrible play calling?
Yeah, but you would think, like, if Pace is going to stick with Trubisky, you think Nagy wants to stay there?
Right.
No.
Very true.
Nagy probably wants out of there.
And also, I think people in the know, like people in the football know, are starting to say, like, hey, this isn't all Trubisky. This is Nagy not really knowing what to do to utilize his talents. But everyone else, they're not really giving him any blame. It's just, oh, Trubisky stinks. We can't win with. Yeah, right, exactly.
Until today, we've been burying Trubisky.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's gotten to a point where he's refusing to change his style to have Trubisky succeed, and I think that's why you blame Nagy. Let's not even talk about the mismanagement of the kicking situation, right?
Right.
He had 9 kickers kick from the same spot, kind of made like a show of it all, and kicking is all in between the ears. So to add another level of, I don't know if they'll ever get it right with him there, right?
Yeah.
Eddie Pinheiro, I guess. What's his name, Zito?
Eddie Pinheiro.
Eddie Pinheiro missed that game winner. He comes back, whatever. The mismanagement of a new head coach for different things is always interesting. But right now, with what he's doing with the quarterback, I think a lot of people who know quarterbacks are like, this is not the right way to be doing things. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, quarterbacks are going to stick up for quarterbacks regardless, unless they're very rich quarterbacks. Then they'll throw him under the bus immediately. And Trubisky is, although rich, he's not wealthy. So they don't want to bury Trubisky, even though he does seem to miss wide open throws, and his body language does suggest that he's not a great leader. But you got to think at this point, even the dumbest of minds would say, hey, this coach has put him in 0 positions to succeed. And that means that the Bears have not succeeded. Now, there was a time, though, in the second half where that defense, the Chicago Bears defense, gave up an 8-minute-plus drive. 4-minute offense in the fourth quarter, giving up an 8-minute drive, 16 plays, 4 third-down conversions, including a 3rd and 12. That's tough stuff. So the defense could say on numerous occasions, we showed up, the offense didn't. This year they could say that. They've completely crapped the bed a couple times as well, so they've had to do that. But this game, after this one, they all have to go in there and say, hey, we stunk. Not getting off the field for an 8-minute drive whenever your team needs it in a 4-minute offense situation, that's tough to deal with the next day. That's very tough, especially when there's a 3rd and 12, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Mm-hmm. That's very tough. So the Bears are in trouble. We all know that.
Yeah.
Pretty happy my knee blew up on that plane ride home, by the way.
Yeah, seriously.
Pretty happy.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I think in the locker room, maybe I could add a little bit of it to it. And who knows if I would have won the position or not. I would have competed for it. But I'm pretty happy to be doing this instead of that. This included a hell of a weekend. Zito, let's get to the calls. You have somebody?
Yes, sir. We have Simon from Houston.
Simon, what's good, dog?
There you go.
Hello?
Yep.
Hey, what's going on? How y'all doing this morning?
Hey, how y'all doing? We're doing pretty good down here. It was cold as balls down there in Texas last week when we were down there. How's Houston doing?
It's doing good. It's in the 60s today. You know, we hanging in there.
Yeah, that's not bad there. What do you want to talk about there, Simon? Simon says what?
Man, Simon's not Scott. His last name was Simon. He got it wrong. You know, it's all right. You're going to get beat up down there in Houston too by them guys in New York.
Mr. Simon, what do you want to talk about?
Hey, man, the references are stooges, man. They stink.
Who's that?
The refs. And missing calls, they missed y'all's call in the game. Hey, that Deshaun Watson plug for them Popeye sandwiches, what y'all think?
Okay, Simon, I appreciate the call. The refs in that Pittsburgh Steelers-Indianapolis Colts game is the ones I was paying most attention to. They were terrible. A couple vital calls led to points for the Steelers and the Colts. They stunk both ways. They stunk worse against the Colts than they did against the Steelers, but in the end, to the refs' credit, they made up for it and had a terrible call against the Steelers to put the Colts in field goal position. So at least they stunk both ways, and they knew that they owed the Colts a little bit. I think we're forever going to have this conversation whether or not the refs stink.
Yeah.
I think they do stink. I think they're old. I think they don't fully understand what's going on. And I think they've been put in a position to not succeed at all. Expectations are at an all-time high because of the ability to review things. So whenever you have the ability to review things, the expectation is like they should always get it right. Then when you go to review and they don't get it right, you're like, well, now the expectations haven't been met. So then you're automatically led to disappointment, which means you're watching something with an eye, with a view of something that's already disappointed you, and now you're just waiting for them to make their next mistake, and bang, it's going to come because that's what NFL refs do is they make mistakes. I don't know how you fix it. I have no clue how you fix it. Some would argue add technology so we can help give a little extra eyes on the field for these refs since they can't see everything and can't keep up with everything. Most of them are super senior citizens. I mean, super senior citizens. You see them eating at Golden Corrals. You see these people eating at Haas's Steakhouse. You see these people being able to move into Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville down there in Florida if they wanted to. Senior citizens running the game. A lot of them have done a lot for the NFL. Can't play a game without them. But we're getting to a point where they're going to cost, and we already have. They're costing people games.
Yep.
Now that sports gambling is wide open, they're costing people a lot of money. And I don't think it's ever going to change. It's just part of the game. It's one of the nuances is that, yeah, the refs stink every once in a while. That's just the way it goes.
They definitely aren't going to do anything about it during the season. If that press conference we saw earlier this year was indicative, when they asked him, hey, how do you think the officiating's been so far? Like, well, it's too early to tell. We think it's been pretty good. It's no, it's actually been awful. But
the internet has broke a couple times talking about how terrible we've done. But
yeah.
It's too early early to tell.
So they'll take the entire year. They'll let it stink the entire year, and then they'll go back to the drawing board in the offseason, and we'll have something else to bitch about, next year.
Scott Simon there from Houston didn't even want to talk about the Houston Texans, who absolutely mollywopped the Jacksonville Jaguars in London town. Deshaun Watson looked incredible, and what I liked about him the most was his spicy chickens Popeye sandwich plug at the end. That was Peyton Manning marketing IQ level of greatness there. Popeye's getting into the game, by the way, not only for Deshaun Watson, who thought he lost his eye last week. That was an actual report, hello, we are broadcasting live from London. Last week, Deshaun Watson got kicked in the eye so bad that he thought he lost his eyeball on the football field. He's thankful to have it back today. I'd say, if I thought I lost my damn eye, and then a week later I'm balling out in another country, international, and then afterwards to have the wherewithal to drop a little Popeyes marketing in there, if Popeyes didn't reach out to him before that, they need to reach out to him now and say, hey, let us make up for the impressions that you gave us yesterday. If they reach out to him beforehand and said, hey, if anything good happens, you just want to give a little shout out, a little love to Popeyes, we would greatly appreciate that and pay you back tenfold on the other side. I love it either way. Whether Deshaun stepped up and did that himself, and the spicy chicken Popeye sandwich is a cure-all to potentially thinking you lost your eyeball and then to play really good football again. I would argue that the Bears are probably ordering about 10,000 spicy chicken sandwiches up there, and they're going to start punching Trubisky in his eye as much as possible.
Bear down.
Bear down. But then Stefon Diggs also had shoes on that said Open Sunday. It's back. The spicy chicken Popeye sandwich is back. Popeye spicy chicken sandwich is back. Popeye's next level marketing here.
Oh, genius.
This is genius marketing. Granted, they did guerrilla marketing with the spicy chicken sandwich the last time.
Right.
We'll just put this out. We'll let Twitter take care of it, and bang, it goes. You got companies paying millions and millions of dollars to make people care about things that they don't care about. All Popeyes had to do was, hey, Stefon, will you wear these cleats and just do what you got to do? Yeah, you got it, man. I'll wear the shoes. I'll take a picture of it. Dan Ravel will tweet it out probably. Get a bunch of free boom, boom, boom.
So what's the difference versus wearing Joker cleats?
Color. It's all about the color of them.
Okay.
I don't think it's actually the contents on the shoes. It's the color of the shoes. Because you have to have a certain color of shoes with every uniform. It's just something that they fix. But Deshaun Watson mentioning it in the post-game press conference, if Popeyes told him to do that, I love it even more. And this is smart marketing, by the way. There's a lot of people that do bad marketing.
Right.
Bad marketing. You put commercials in the middle of games that people don't want to see, that aren't going to do absolutely anything. You put super serious commercials in the middle of an atmosphere. It's just sometimes not sometimes, a lot of the time there's a lot of wasted money in marketing. Getting to the players to talk in the post game, just like Peyton did with Budweiser and Papa John's, and boy, I love this Budweiser. And when I wear my Buick shirt, it makes me feel like I can drive smarter and more sophisticated. When Peyton did that after the Super Bowl, I was like, this is genius. Genius. Because at the minimum, he's getting free things from these people forever. At the most, he's getting deals and dealerships. That's exactly what happened for him. I assume the same thing's going to happen to Deshaun. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to... I don't know if there's really that much of a battle between Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. I'd have to actually look and see there. But I'll tell you what, in terms of marketing... Popeyes knows what they're doing. Chick-fil-A just has the eat more chicken stuff, and not being open on Sunday, could it be a fatal flaw for Chick-fil-A? Is Chick-fil-A going to go under in the next 5 years?
Some would say in those 6 days they gross more than
1,000%.
every other company.
The Chick-fil-A in the mall in Indianapolis is actually the most profitable store in there, so...
Good for them.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the phones. 1-833-622-3331. Talking about all things life. Zito, who do we have?
We have Kyle from Arkansas.
Kyle
from Arkansas.
Kyle, what's up?
Oh, not much. Got a question for you. Friday night just kind of blew my mind with what happened on SmackDown. What I want to know is, what was it like, in your opinion, to be ringside like that and just see NXT come in and dominate?
Okay, Kyle from Arkansas, I appreciate the question. Great question. For those that don't know, on Friday night, I commentated SmackDown Live on Fox. Not Fox Sports 1, not Fox Sports Ocho, not Fox News, actual Fox. Network television. Made no sense to me. Had no idea what was happening. I flew home from Waco, Texas on Thursday Night Football, the West Virginia-Baylor game, which was a very good game. Came down to the end. Ugly football game, but a good football game.
Right.
Fly home. Got a chance to go down to Memphis the next day for College game day. So I was going to do the show from Indianapolis. I was going to nap for a couple hours, fly down to Memphis, go through the entire show for Saturday. I'm excited to be back. Let's have fun on Beale Street, hyping up college football all morning. At 1:42, while we were waiting for a pizza company to deliver to the office that we had been waiting for an hour and 45 minutes for, the only reason why I was still at the office was for this food. I was starving. I get a text from a 1-HHH. You home? Question mark. And I had heard the news about what happened with their planes breaking down in Saudi Arabia and all of their talent, commentators, producers, everything basically being stuck in the Middle East due to a plane malfunction. The internet was abuzz about this. I get a you home text from Triple H. And I look at it and I go, oh, damn. I go, yes, I am home. I get a phone call from him immediately. He goes, hey, have you heard about what happened over in Saudi Arabia with their planes? I'm like, I absolutely have. He was like, I haven't pitched this to Vince McMahon yet, but if you were to come in and do some commentary and kind of just let you do your thing, would you be up for it tonight in Buffalo? Would you be able to get to Buffalo? I said, absolutely. He said, okay, I'll get back to you. So I hang up. Now, I have no way of getting to Buffalo. I have a plane taking me to Memphis like 5 hours from now, but that plane was in Florida because I last minute scheduled it to get to Memphis because I didn't know I was going to be on game day. So I text said plane. I go, hey, is there any way you guys get me to Buffalo by 6 o'clock tonight? They go, no way. Plane's in Florida. So I call another plane company. I started calling around plane companies. I looked at commercial flights. Is there any flight that can get me from Indianapolis to Buffalo in time for this SmackDown Fox debut lifelong dream event? No. So I went deep into the playbook. Page 140 of the playbook that nobody opens, nobody sees, wiped the dust off, and I threw a Hail Mary to Pete Ward, who's the COO of the Indianapolis Colts. I go, Pete, I would never ask for anything. I get a phone call back from Pete. He goes, you never asked for anything, actually. What do you want? To what do I owe this communication, says Pete Ward. I said, well, here's the story. Told him the whole story about Saudi Arabia. Said I have an opportunity to call SmackDown tonight. Mr. H said if I get there, by the way, at this point, did not know if it was 100% sure or not.
Right.
Did not know if this was definitely going to happen, but I have to get the wheels in motion so I can get there if it does happen. I go, is there any way Jim Irsay would lend me a plane to get there and then get to Memphis? And Pete goes, oh, great question. I'll call you back. I'm like, you got it. So his immediate positive reaction was like, oh, maybe we got a shot here. So then he calls me back. He goes, Jim says, pack your bags, brother. I'd assume. He said, you got a plane. Where do you need to go? I said, well, I need to get from here to Buffalo and then Buffalo to Memphis for College game day. He goes, pack your bags. What time are you taking off? I'm like, still at this point, I don't know if I'm definitely in the show. So I got Jim Irsay's plane literally on standby, but I have no idea if I'm actually in the show. So 15 minutes later, I get a text from Hunter. It says, let's go. And I'm like, my man. So I text Pete. I'm like, I need like 30, 45 minutes. Is that good? He's like, got it. They get a flight attendant for us, 2 pilots. We had steaks on the plane. Got on his G4. Me, Foxy, and Zito are sitting on his G4 with DirecTV. Better DirecTV on his plane than it was at my house. I was watching the Niners-Cardinals game, flying up to Buffalo. I land like an hour and 45 minutes before the show starts. Nobody there. Nobody. Everybody's stuck in transit. I see Mr. H. He's talking to Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I turn in, Triple H stands up. He like cuts off his conversation with Brock. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to make that guy mad. So I go over to Brock immediately, shake his mitt. Are you kidding me? That thing engulfed my arm all the way up to my middle of my forearm.
Massive human
Ham
being.
Massive ham hocks there. I go, nice to meet you, sir. You're a legend. He goes, you too. And I was like, oh, well, you said it. And I just walk away. Talk to Mr. H. I go, what's the plan? He goes, we got a good one for you. I'm like, all right. I get a text from Michael Cole. He's like, have you heard the plan yet? I'm like, no. He's like, we got a good one for you. Nobody told me the plan still. We're like an hour before the show. I get told the plan, and then we immediately go into Vince McMahon's office. I'm wearing a sleeveless hoodie and jorts. I had a sport coat and a button down just in case what happened at WrestleMania happens here.
Sure.
Just in case I was going to get kicked out. Vince McMahon still got his fastball, by the way. Still got his fastball in the meeting. Still sending zingers out there, runs through the entire thing. About an hour before the show, I go out there. at about 8:30, last hour and a half, doing commentary with Tom Phillips and Renee Young, and I had the time of my life out there. When I say I had a blast, I mean I had a blast. The NXT brand, which is the brand I work for, that Triple H runs, there's Raw, there's SmackDown, there's NXT. Basically, the NXT superstars took over Friday Night SmackDown because there was nobody there, so we kind of made it a show about NXT and NXT TakeOver for Survivor Series, and I had a blast. I'm friends with basically everybody there. They kind of let me do my thing. And Vince McMahon was in my ear a couple times, and I think I even heard him laugh once. Stephanie McMahon was in my ear a couple times. I think I even heard her laugh once. It was a success, and I had a blast, and it all came to be within 5 hours. And Jim Irsay, honestly, you've given me a lot, too much. You grossly overpaid me to kick balls. To drop your G4 just like that, for me to do that is so cool. I don't know how many other owners would do that. I don't know how many other people would be that lucky. But for me, I made a bunch of, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that. And had no idea if, I could do that. And then it all came together very last minute, and I had a great time.
And you created the greatest GIF of all time, by the way.
Stephanie McMahon waving and blowing a kiss to Triple H, who's standing right in front of me, and then me waving back. I didn't know if they caught it. I knew it was going to be a magical moment.
It looked like your first day of school saying bye like your parents.
It was a dream, man. And then Saturday, we get to go to Memphis for game day. In Beale Street, for all the talk that Australian said about Memphis, Beale Street showed up on Saturday.
I said that, too.
It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I was told there's a couple moments that I could get an email for today.
Have you got one yet?
Not yet. I haven't checked.
Okay. All right.
I said, it's great to be here amongst the incredible drunks of Beale Street or Memphis, whatever. I guess that's not a normal thing to happen where you just talk about the humans that are because we had to run through. I had to run from the stage to the Octagon where I did that Penny Hardaway interview and the you had one job thing. I had been amongst the drunks the entire time. And those are my people, by the way. A lot of great people in Memphis. They showed out for that. In the College Game Day crew, good people. Coonan, the agent, was like, you probably get an email for saying that the drunks were there. I'm like, well, I mean, they were.
Good pop from them, though. They appreciated it. They enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We've been here all morning. They really were. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. Got to interview Penny Hardaway. And to ESPN's credit, they didn't tell me a single thing to ask him. They didn't say I couldn't ask this, I couldn't do that. They were just like, hey, you're going to interview Penny Hardaway. I was like, cool with me, man. And then they just let it happen. And then in my ear, they're like, all right, throw it back to Reese. I'm like, you got it. The amount of trust and faith that they had to have in me, especially when I showed up in jorts and everybody was like, do you have pants? I'm like, no. They're like, even in your hotel? I'm like, I got another pair of jorts that I wore last night on SmackDown. I can wear those if you want. The amount of faith they had in me, I'm very, very thankful. And anytime they give me a chance to get on that show, I am honored. It was awesome. But I think I've done everything now, right? I've done the picking. I've done an interview. I've done a football segment. I've done the You Had One Job.
Yep.
The audition, basically, over those 2 weeks has
complete.
happened.
Yeah.
I've hit every single role. Hopefully they liked it. I hope they bring me back at some point because that show is awesome. And the people that work it, also awesome. First class. Same with SmackDown, by the way. The fact that came together as quick as it did, a lot of brilliance up there. And some are saying that's the greatest SmackDown in the history of SmackDowns.
Well, the ratings indicate that.
The ratings were up. Your boy had a good time, man. There's no way I had any couth in the booth, though. I was doing things you're not supposed to do. In the middle of promos, I'd be like, like while people are talking,
See, but that's why, granted, you're my boss, but I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. Anyone who would watch that would tell, that enhances what you're watching. It's different than anything else you're used to seeing, which is why you put the asses in the seats, which is why people want to watch that stuff.
Yeah, some people hate me. It's just the way it goes. And to them, I say, I'd probably hate you too. So I don't know what to tell you. 11:54 here. This has been a quick 2 hours. We're about to get on a damn plane, fly back to Indianapolis, where we'll be live tomorrow with Aaron Rodgers confirmed. Aaron Rodgers on the show mañana. Joe Buck here today. Chris Mannix today. I mean, the football world is only getting hot. Who's going to win tonight? Cowboys or Giants? I got the Cowboys tonight. But I've been on a 5-game slide here. I could be completely wrong. Whereas tonight that the train gets back on the tracks in my gambling with FanDuel. The hammer lost for me with the Colts. When you lose Jacoby Brissett, though, that might happen. There's some outstanding things, but that happens in football. I have to take some accountability. I was wrong. I lost a lot of money. People that rode with me lost a lot of money. I think I made up for you with all the other bets, but I can understand we haven't been completely perfect. I think the Cowboys tonight get a win.
I like it. Lombardi likes it.
We'll be back tomorrow. Who knows how they're due? That's obligatory Cowboy talk. This has been the Pat McAfee Show.